cross-faction is happening? No way. No way, man. It's happening. Cross-faction dungeons, raids, and rated PvP will begin testing soon. Testing. Does that mean it's gonna be up for 9.2 or next expansion? The question is this for 9.2 or next expansion? But holy, did not we just begged Blizzard for this for such a long time? 9.2.5. Let's check it out, dude. Man, what are they doing with this game? Are they actually fixing this game, bro? To ruin the story of the game? It's not gonna ruin the story of the game. We are making the history. We are making the story. For years now, many players have questions whether the rules restricting communication and cooperation between Alliance and Horde need to be absolute. The faction divide could keep close friends from playing together or cause players to feel that their faction leaves them with far fewer opportunities to pursue their favorite group content. But these downsides have long been justified in order to preserve a central element of the Warcraft universe. It all began with a game titled Warcraft, Orcs and Humans, right? But quote a one-time war chief of the Horde, times change. They can make it happen, man. It's their game. They can make it happen. WoW and Blizzard community did not had so many good news in like months as they did in like a couple of hours. I am pleased to announce that we are working on adding the ability for Alliance and Horde players to form pre-made parties together for dungeons, raids, and rated PvP. There have been 2 decades worth of code and content crafted with the assumption that parties can only have players of a single faction, and while we want to make this feature available as soon as possible, the extent of the change means that it couldn't be ready in time for the upcoming Eternity's End content update. Instead, we are planning to test and release it as part of the subsequent 9.2.5 update. Okay, not even like I would have assumed, and didn't I told you, stream? Didn't I told you so many times that cross-faction needs to be in the game? But I always said it's not gonna happen in 9.2. They said they want to end a big era of the story with the next patch, and then from the next expansion they want to build a new story, right? Because they said that like a big thing will change. I mean, a big part of the story ends with the jailer and with like the final patch of Shadowlands, and then something new happens. And I was like, cross-faction will come with the new expansion. Apparently sooner than the new expansion. We're eager to hear your feedback about the details we're sharing today and the details of our implementation when this feature becomes available on the public test realm following the release of Eternity's End. In crafting the rule set for this new feature, we were guided by 2 goals. Focus on organized instant gameplay. Dungeons, raids, and rated PvP have been at the center of the most compelling arguments for relaxing the faction divide. This is content that by definition requires a pre-made group, and thus social barriers will have the greatest negative impact on people's ability to access these experiences on their preferred terms. Make this an opt-in feature as much as possible. In terms of in-world fiction and player preferences, there are decades of animosity to overcome. While we are excited to offer players the choice to reach across the faction divide and cooperate to overcome common foes, we know that there are many who will react weirdly to this change, and we don't want to override those preferences. This is about increasing options for players. Okay, so there is a possible opt-in change. Maybe you want, maybe you're not. Players will be able to directly invite members of the opposite faction to a party if you have a battle tag or a real ID friendship, or if you are members of a cross-faction WoW community. Okay, that's putting some restrictions. So you can only invite a player. Of course, this can change. It's not even on PDR. Things will change. So you need, like, in order for me to invite an Alliance player, I need to have his battle tag, real ID, or we are of a cross-faction WoW community. Pre-made groups in the group finder listing for mythic dungeons, raids, or rated arena RPGs will be open to applicants of both factions through the group leader, though the group leader may choose to restrict the listing to some faction applicants if they choose. Okay, so this is good. So now the pre-made will be global, as in cross-faction global. But you can choose not to be. That's good. Guilds will remain single faction, and random match-made activities like heroic dungeons, skirmishes, or random battlegrounds will all remain same faction, both because there is less faction-driven pressure around random groups and to avoid compromising the opt-in nature of the feature by randomly placing a queuing orc in a group with a night elf. Not a problem. Once in a party together, members of the opposite faction will remain unfriendly while in the outdoor world and fully hostile in war mode, as they do today, though they will be able to communicate through party chat upon entering a dungeon, raid, or rated PvP match. However, all members will be friendly and able to assist each other in combat, trade loot, earn shared achievements, and otherwise fully cooperate the same way members of the same faction have always been able to. A major goal in announcing this feature in advance is to make sure we are capturing all the expectations and requirements for this to be a smooth experience. A group raiding, doing Mythic Plus keys, or chasing higher PvP ratings should be able to operate seamlessly whether they're a same faction or cross-faction group. True that. This functionality will also apply to legacy instances and is available at all levels, though there will be several older instances that cross-faction parties cannot enter, at least for now. But for the Zara Lord, Trial of the Crusader, Iceborne Citadel, remember that country. Okay, yeah, because there are like iconic places where there's an actual how it's called, there's an actual fight between Alliance or like Alliance and Horde and stuff like that. That's understandable. There are likely those who have read this far with some unease, worried that this is chipping away at a foundation principle of Warcraft. At BlizzCon in 2019, when an attendee asked about cross-faction play, we responded at the time that Alliance and Horde separation is a pillar of what makes Warcraft. But upon reflection, that is an oversimplification. Alliance and Horde identity is what is fundamental to Warcraft. And while at times that identity has been one of a division and open conflict, we've seen Alliance and Horde finding common ground and working together ever since Warcraft 3, notably including the last time a Warcraft chapter was named Eternity's End. And the instances of cooperation in World of Warcraft itself are too numerous to count. That's the thing. Even if you are like a lore master and you will say that no way, we should not be able to play in between cross factions because we were always at war. Yes, the story developed like that. The story was with alliance between Horde, alliance against Horde, and vice versa, and the war was going on for years and years, and blah 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 these, blah 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 that. But they developed the story in a way that, as they said, a lot of time we had to play together, we had to overcome our foes together and stuff like that. And they can drive the story even more to combine both factions, basically. So they can totally do this, man. They can totally do this from the story point of view, so they don't, they don't make those extraordinary lore-based players angry, and at the same time, for the whole game, like for the whole flow of the game and balance of players and stuff like that, it's gonna be way better, like way better. The fight between Horde and Alliance has stopped a long time. Of course, there are like small conflicts and blah blah blah, but the big picture, the big story was derived from that point in a long time. We're hopeful that these changes will serve to actually strengthen faction identity by allowing more players to play the faction whose values, aesthetics, and characters they find more compelling, rather than feeling forced to choose between their personal preference and the ability to play with friends. Exactly. Like, I have a feeling right now a lot of people are playing on Horde side just because the Horde side has the numbers. Like, a lot of players would go Alliance or would play Alliance, but when you go there, if you are like a bit of a competitive player and not a casual herb gathering player, if you go on Alliance, you won't find enough players for the content. There are not enough guilds to apply, not enough heroic to mythic raiding happening, maybe players for mythic plus or PvP are in less numbers than on the Horde side, so then you're kind of forced. I remember back in the day, me with Blue over here from the chat, like I started to play this game as an Alliance player. When I found out Blue and his guild banished, they were all Alliance. We were all Alliance. We played together as Alliance in the beginning of Legion, but then we saw it was hard to get mythic raiders. It was hard to recruit players and stuff like that. I was like, okay, we gotta move to Horde, because the Horde numbers were way bigger even back then. Following the events of Battle for Azeroth, the Alliance and Horde are poised in an uneasy armistice. The factions still stand apart, and even as some of their leaders cooperate in the Shelllands, countless members of each faction will neither forgive nor forget the wartime actions of the other. For every Jaina there is a Jen, and that seems unlikely to change anytime soon. But why shouldn't players be able to make that choice for themselves, especially in cooperative settings where the story revolves around coming together to overcome dire threats? Exactly, man, exactly. That's Giga. Didn't we knew this is gonna come? Didn't we knew about the cross faction? We knew. I mean, we knew. We were speculating this. I said it. It has to happen. It has to happen in the nearest time, possibly the next expansion. Supposedly now it's gonna happen before the next expansion, in the next half and a patch and a half.